It's time for How to Grow It with Keith Funk, garden expert, author, radio and TV garden show host. Keith and his guest garden pros are here to help you with all your lawn and garden questions. You'll have the best yard in town thanks to How to Grow It with the pros.
Welcome to How to Grow It with the Pros, the online garden show that answers your gardening questions. I'm your host, Keith Funk, and today with me in the studio is lawn expert John Eden from Revive to help me to answer a great question from Alex in Golden, Colorado. He wants to know about his lawn and why it's become patchy and sparse, and weeds are starting to invade those areas, and how can he make that better? How can he stop that? How can he fix that problem? So, John, I really appreciate you coming to the studio today. Thank you.
You bet, Keith. How are you?
Can you tell our listeners more about who you are and what Revive does?
Sure. I've been working with Revive for, over 30 years now. Grew up in the lawn care business, so seeing firsthand what Revive can do for homeowners' yards and fixing so many different issues and problems that they have to deal with, I've become a lifelong member of the Revive fan club.
Well, that sounds great. We've got several issues here that Alex wants to know about. What pops to mind is he may have some mowing problems. There may be some sunlight issues. He may be getting too much or too little light on the lawn. Definitely, more than likely, there's watering issues, fertilizer, and maybe some aeration to talk about. So I'm going to get started right now with the mowing. On turf, it's best during the hot summer months to mow tall, and I'm talking 2 to 2.5 inches, even 3 inches on some of the cool season grasses. It helps shade the soil. Your roots are happier. They grow deeper. They grow better, and it also helps save water and keeps the weeds out. Without the light, the weeds don't have the ability to get going. But another issue with sparse, patchy lawns is fertilizer. Wouldn't you say, John?
Oh, definitely. And like the old rule of thumb is the best defense is a good offense. A properly fed lawn will help be a more weed-free lawn. The frequency of an application of fertilizer is important too, and of course that depends upon where you live and the grass type.
Well, sure, and the time of year. But the fertilizer is also what's going to give you the nice, rich color you expect to have in a lawn. If you're going to go to all the effort of putting a lawn in and maintaining it, it might as well look good too, right?
Right. Most homeowners want to keep up with the Joneses, and a dark green lawn is what they're after.
I like my yard to be the envy of the neighborhood. One of the other problems with causing a sparse, patchy lawn is light. Many times a yard is put in when the home is built, the trees are planted, there's lots and lots of sun. As time goes by, the trees grow, and there's more and more shade. Well, the grass that was put in there initially was adapted to full sun. Now it's getting a lot of shade, so that can cause the lawn to thin out. You'll need to go in there and overseed those areas with a shade-loving grass seed that is appropriate for your climate. Aeration is another very important thing for good, healthy grass to keep the roots happy, because roots are everything, and I would always start with aeration.
Definitely. Aeration will help get the water, fertilizer, nutrients down to the root zone, which is where you need it.
And one easy way to do that, if you can't use a mechanical aerator during the hot part of the summer, I don't recommend it. I like using the mechanical plug-type aerators during the cool part of the year. You could use your product, Revive. It's a liquid aerator.
Exactly. I've seen some yards, perhaps you have too, Keith, where the ground's so hard it bounces. The aerated machine bounces across the turf. It's like trying to aerate your parking lot. So Revive is a great alternative to that situation, or on steep slopes where perhaps even aerating can be a dangerous situation.
Oh, yeah, that's exactly right. I know that in my yard, some of the areas, the water just sits on top of the ground if I don't get in there and aerate it on a regular basis. And, let's face it, a healthy root system, everything else works better when you've got a healthy root system. So aeration is key in my mind. And then finally, watering. If you've got a sprinkler system in your lawn, you need to check those heads on a regular basis to make sure that they're covering the entire area that they're supposed to cover. Set out some cans, like some empty tuna fish cans or a rain gauge or something like that in those areas, and measure how much water you're putting down to see that all your heads are putting down the same amount of water, and your entire yard is being watered correctly. So today we've talked about Alex's thin, sparse yard that's allowing weeds to come in because of the thinness and the sparseness of it. So we've talked about mowing correctly, making sure it has the right light, watering correctly, deeply and infrequently, as the grass needs it. You don't want to have your grass on a regular schedule. You need to water when the grass needs it, and that's not always the same from week to week. We also talked about fertilizer and aeration. And we had our great guest in today with John Eden from Revive.
And I would like to invite the listeners to visit our website, revive.com, because it can take care of many of their turf problems.
Much more than what we just talked about
exactly.
today. So thanks for being here, John, and thank you all for listening.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of How to Grow It with garden expert Keith Funk. Get all your lawn and garden questions answered listening to Keith and his Garden Pro guests. You'll have the best yard in town thanks to How to Grow It with the pros.